Today in the podcast, we are trying something new. My first career and my life has been infused with music, and I'm a guitar player, and I've been in bands and all that kind of stuff for a long time. And today we have a new sub-series of the podcast that's going to be about musicians who have brought that life and that experience and those skills into their business careers. And the first guest in this part of the podcast is going to be Jon Harris, who is a senior vice president and chief communications officer for ConAgra Brands. He does a lot of things in his day job that you might recognize as a communications officer, but also has a lot of fun stories about being in music and performing and what that's brought to his life and his job and his career and what he's done to kind of grow both of those simultaneously. It's a great conversation, so let's jump right in. Jon Harris, thanks for coming to the podcast. Great seeing you this morning.
An honor to be here, Mike. Thanks so much for having me on.
So I'm really excited. You're the first guest in my new, I don't know if it's a series or a topic or just a lark. We'll find out. And it's that a long time ago, I got some advice from a coach that said, hey, you've been in music your whole life and you don't really use it in your business. Why are you doing that? Why are you hiding it, et cetera? And it took me, I don't know, another decade to figure out at least an idea to try to do something with that. And that is, I want to talk to people who have been in music, who have been in some kind of professional career, and they managed to weave it together in a way that was interesting. So I'm thrilled to have met you recently, and you've got a lot of fun stuff going on. And so thanks for being a part of this new experiment.
Oh, I am honored. Thank you so much. It is great to be with you on this rainy Friday here in Chicago.
I know it's. I remember when I first moved to Chicago, I was introduced to the concept of spring two, and fall spring, and then winter two, and all these whatever happens in Chicago, right?
I've been here for 22 years now, and it's really two seasons. They always say it, but it really is. You've got winter,
and
then you have summer.
Yeah. I heard of winter and construction, but that's maybe
that too.
That's the other joke.
That too.
Yeah. Well, so maybe let's start with tell people what's your current role and what are the kinds of problems you work on a day-to-day basis?
Sure. Well, I have the pleasure to work at a company called ConAgra Brands. We're an $11 billion company with about 150 brands. You may not know the name ConAgra, but you'll know Orville Redenbacher, Ready Whip, Healthy Choice, Frontera, Duncan Hines, Vlasic Pickles, Birdseye. And I oversee all communications. So all of our corporate communications, our internal communications, our brand marketing communications, and then also all of our corporate giving and foundation efforts, what we do within the communities in which we work and serve. So, I've been at ConAgra for almost 7 years now, but I've been doing this in the consumer packaged goods industry for most of my career. I've been doing communications, public relations for the last, dare I say, Mike, almost 32 years. So, it's been quite the journey, but I'm lucky to work with an amazing team. And great people.
That's fantastic. And so 31 years, so you were a prodigy. You started when you were 11, right?
Yes, I did. I started very early. It's amazing how that happens. I started right out of Rutgers. I graduated with a communications degree. I had entered pre-med, then pre-law, and then somehow wound up in communications because I had a great professor there, a guy named Todd Hunt, who I still stay in touch with. Had an internship at WXRK in New York City. I was on the East Coast, where I worked with Howard Stern and the Turtles, and it was terrific, and I really loved it. But I graduated, needed to make money. They did offer me the job driving the van at WXRK, K-Rock. But I had student loans I had to pay back. So was lucky enough to have an adjunct professor at Rutgers, a guy named Gil Bash, who gave me a job he was the president of a boutique healthcare communications company and offered me a job right out of college. And from there, I worked in agencies, then jumped on the corporate side to Pepsi. And then since then have Sarah Lee, Hillshire Brands, and now ConAgra Brands. But it's always been consumer packaged goods, working with some of America's best brands. But with that comes, the best part about it, the brands and putting smiles on people's faces. But then also you deal with I always say the good, the bad, and the ugly. You deal
Yeah.
with the bad, and when there's recalls, or the ugly when there's a social issue
Hmm.
that folks have gotten involved with, that we need to address, as it's the right thing to do from a corporate social
Sure.
responsibility standpoint. So, and I don't know if it's necessarily ugly. I would just say it's
Yeah.
responsible.
Challenging. Yeah.
Yeah, it's challenging, and so, but it's a pleasure. I have the pleasure to work with some terrific leaders at my organization, some amazing brands, and I have a great team behind me too. And it makes going to work every day very easy.
Yeah. Well, so the book I wrote last year had to do with superpowers, and so I'm curious, getting that superhero kind of mindset. What's your origin story about how you got started in music? So we've heard a little of the professional stuff. Like what got you started in music?
Great question. I love the origin story too.
Yeah.
I'm thinking back at Boba Fett now,
Right.
which I just
Exactly. Yeah.
finished. Or probably, I'll think of a better origin story at some point during this. Music has always been a big part of my life. I
Mhm.
was fortunate to be born into a family. I had my grandfather played the piano. My mother sang. And my father was a real student of music, loved it. There's a great oldies station in New York called WCBS FM that I grew up on,
Mm.
listening to doo-wop at the age of
Yep.
8. I won tickets. I once spent $175 on our phone bill back then, when there were
Wow.
long distance charges,
Yeah.
calling WCBS FM in New York City trying to win tickets to Murray the K's reunion,
Oh, wow.
at
Did you win?
I did a music
Oh, wow.
reunion at Madison Square Garden. Um, it was, but so music has always been a big part
Yeah.
of my identity. And, I was never an athlete. I had asthma growing up, and it was just, I always sang.
Hmm.
Um, I loved music, even though I can't read music. I loved playing both piano and guitar, and it was something that my family, we all had in common.
Mm.
And I think, it's the universal language. I mean, what I love most about uh, your podcast here today is, music is the universal language. I don't play golf,
Mm.
so but everyone, it's rare that you find someone who doesn't like music.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, any genre. And so, for me, it's been a big part. It was a big part of me growing up, being accepted.
Sure.
It was something that I loved to do. I was very much involved, even in grammar school, in choirs. And I had a band when I was in fifth
Mhm.
grade and fourth grade, and we would perform at the assemblies. And I always loved performing. Um, and then got into plays when I was in middle school and high school. But it's always been a big part of me,
Yeah.
and I don't know what life would be like without it. And I think music has helped me, from a relationship standpoint. The
Mhm.
the time to make relationships is not when you need them, but always.
Yeah.
And music has always helped me forge some amazing relationships, whether it's going to concerts with people, whether it's performing
Yeah.
with people, or for people, for
Yeah.
executives. It's always been such a big part of who I am. So I guess it's always been in me, genetically,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
don't know what I would ever do without it.
It's funny. I know why this is of the tidbits I just picked up. The golf one is funny for me because I feel like I know a lot of musicians for whom golf is a thing that escapes them, and also, how could you spend 5 hours on a Saturday doing that? And it's the thing. Music is the thing that they go do instead. So I think maybe the golfers would think, why would you get together with guys on a Tuesday afternoon and play guitars for a couple hours? But I think it's a similar. I don't know if some of those things kind of be mutually exclusive. I don't know why that is.
It has a very calming, I will say,
Yeah.
music for me, it is the most calming thing I can do. I just love, there's nothing I love more than going to my basement and just playing guitar,
Mhm.
singing, and just relaxing. And believe me, it drives my family crazy. At first it's cute. When I met my wife 28 years
Yeah.
ago, and it was cute when you had someone who would sing, and I would sing to her and play for her and write songs. I used to perform down in Greenwich Village when we lived in New
Yeah.
York, and it was great. And then I think, I don't know if it's that way in your house, but after a while, like my wife she's okay with it if I perform in public. She certainly attends
Yeah.
my basement sessions that I've been doing for the last couple of years. She's the executive producer, so she'll be behind the camera. I also get that wonderful thing that musicians have when you'll be playing the guitar. You're playing it, you're listening to the music.
Yeah.
Your wife will be talking to you, and you are not listening to a word she said.
That's never happened. No. Well, so I have the benefit. My wife is a singer, and she's actually been in many bands with me. So we have that going. But I think we just annoy the kids. I think that's probably
Someone
really
somewhere is going to be
yeah.
annoyed. I will say my wife does have a good voice, and so we do sing from time to time. And our children, I wouldn't call us the Von Trapps, but our kids love music.
Yeah.
Particularly my youngest and my middle one really love music.
Yeah. Well, so maybe just do you have a favorite story about where music has taken you? Like what's a favorite experience that came about because of
Oh
music?
my gosh, I have a great story. I was thinking about this. I have recently. I used to be the head of communications at a company called Sara Lee Corporation. We had Sara Lee cheesecake and coffee cake, and then we also had brands like Hillshire Farm. We had Jimmy Dean. We had some amazing overseas brands like Dow Egbert's Coffee, Kiwi Shoe Polish. Anyway, we had a global leadership summit in Tuscany on the
Mm.
Ferragamo estate, and they had hired a band to perform, and the band they could not get traction with the audience. I think it was during the World Cup too, so a lot of our European
Oh, sure. They're
colleagues,
preoccupied.
yeah,
Yeah.
had our European colleagues, were watching TV, and this was supposed to be a big bonding,
Yeah.
big bonding
Yeah.
effort. And I don't want to be that guy who has to get up on stage all the time too, because look at me.
Yeah.
But at some point, my mentor Brenda Barnes, who has since passed, but oh my goodness, she said to me, "Will you please get up there and take this over? This night's a disaster. Will you
Yeah.
please save it?" And I got on stage with the band, and 2 hours I played with that band in Tuscany.
Wow. What was the first tune?
Oh
What
gosh,
did you pick to bring the crowd back?
that's a great question. I don't remember the first tune. I know we did "Sweet Home Chicago,"
Oh, of course.
and I
Okay.
knew
Sure.
we did everything because the band was from Europe, so they were able to play. We did everything from 8675309
Oh my
Jenny
God. Yeah.
to to Twist and Shout. It was a lot of the
Yeah.
standards as we know them. We might have done Layla, but it was so much fun. And the Ferragamo estate even said to us, "They like, hey, if you ever want to come back, we'd love to have you." But
Yeah.
it was a night that I'll always remember under the Tuscan sky.
Oh my God.
But I've always, it's always been that way. Music has always been a big part of me, and because I'm not shy and I do love to entertain, I for a while I've been doing corporate communications as you know, for so many years. But I did take about 6 months off to my friend Meredith Vieira at the time was doing a show, a daytime talk show called the Meredith Vieira Show. Very creative title.
Yeah.
And I used to warm up the audience by singing with them and performing for them and singing and
Oh wow.
taking requests. We had an amazing
Yeah.
band, a guy named Everett Bradley headed up the band, and so I've always done that. And whether you're in Disney, even in college, if you're on a bus, as we were late night many nights at
Yeah.
Rutgers, you'd be taking buses to different campuses. I would start a sing along, and suddenly the whole bus would be singing. And it's just
Yeah.
it's something that everybody, it's a part of everyone's life, and for the most part, I think it makes people pretty happy. And that's what
Oh yeah.
I love most about it. There are so many stories like that. I mean, It's funny. I once went saw Billy Joel on his 70th birthday. It was a couple of years ago, before COVID. So I took some friends of mine.
Yeah.
One of them is a guy named John Slattery, from famous from Mad Men, and so much. He plays Tony Stark's dad in the Marvel movies as well. A
Yeah.
very accomplished actor. Desperate Housewives. Anyway, John Slattery and I were talking to Billy Joel. We were backstage. We were able to get backstage Billy Joel, and we're talking to Billy Joel about music, but then also
Yeah.
motorcycles. And I
Oh my God.
love
Yeah.
that. Another time, I was in, once again, Italy. I haven't gone to Italy all that much, but there's magical things that have
You
happened.
made the most of it. That's for
It's
sure.
totally. Well, I went
Yeah.
years ago. My friend Everett Everett Bradley, who's with Bon Jovi's band now, was playing in
Yeah.
Bruce Springsteen's band. And I am a huge Bruce Springsteen fan. I have,
Yeah.
I've been collecting bootlegs for the last, 30 years. And my friend said, hey, if you go to, the place to see Bruce is in Rome, Milan, or
Huh.
Barcelona.
Okay.
And so I was invited. Of course, I jumped at the chance. And I brought a buddy of mine along as well. And we went. We had an amazing time.
Hmm.
And I was with Everett about 4:30 in the morning. I'm with Everett. We were at a hotel called the Hotel Jerusi.
Yeah.
And my friend, I will just say, Ed, I'm not name dropping. I'm saying it was Al Roker I was with. So
Yeah.
Al and I are hanging out with Everett, and then some members of the band, and they all are. It's late, but we're still amped up from the show.
Yeah.
And Bruce comes walking in after dinner, and he's, and I have to tell you, it was one of those out of body experiences because I didn't even have time to get nervous, but I had the
Yeah.
pleasure to sit and talk to Bruce Springsteen with Al and Everett and a
Right.
few of the other guys for a half hour about music
That's
and
fantastic. Yeah.
songwriting and performing. And I always say it's one of the top 5 moments of my life. My favorite
That's
moments,
fair. Yeah.
getting married and the birth of my 3 children, our 3 children, and then
Yeah.
meeting Bruce Springsteen
Yeah.
and hearing him talk about music, Mike, and about
Oh my God.
songwriting. And we were talking about doo-wop, and then we were talking about kids and wives, and
Yeah.
and he lived up to the hype. Many times they say,
Oh,
don't
for sure.
meet your heroes. He was quite a hero. And Al and I immediately after we were done, we got a picture with him, of course.
Yeah.
Because I said to him, like, can we get a picture with you? Because, our wives will never believe this. And we
Yeah.
called our wives. It was very exciting. And it's great to see a guy like Al who's met everyone, right? I mean, he's met
And he's still a
everyone
fan.
and still does, get excited to meet someone like a Bruce Springsteen. I'm kind of zealot. I've been very, very
Yeah.
lucky. A friend of mine, they're all triggering now, but a friend of mine is a guy named Tony Russell, who is Keith Richards' personal manager and assistant.
Okay.
And Tony Russell, many years ago, I was in Manhattan with a friend of mine and invited us. Said, hey, the Stones, there's a private party going on for the launch of 40 Licks. I guess Best Buy at the time had come out with 40 Licks. It was a greatest hits package, but it was and a DVD package with concerts from 40 years.
Yeah.
And he invited us. And I had no idea what to expect. We were in New York for business. And I went to the Marquee Club. I don't even know if it's still there. And Tony met us outside, brought us upstairs. It was the Rolling Stones and the cast of The Sopranos.
Oh my
And
God.
I'm sitting talking to Charlie Watts about The Sopranos, and he's telling me,
Yeah.
may he rest in peace, plugging his ears, telling me, don't tell me what happens. Don't tell me what happens.
Oh,
I
no
haven't caught up
spoilers.
yet. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's a surreal moment for a kid from Wayne, New Jersey, who, went to college on financial aid and, and suddenly you're hobnobbing with these just
Right.
amazing heroes. And the
That's
fact that
fantastic.
they're great people made it a wonderful
Yeah.
experience.
Well, so those are like really incredible experiences. I wonder if you've ever thought about how what you've learned about your life in music into the mundane details of the day to day of doing your work, whether it's the work you do or coaching or mentoring or being mentored or coached, like anything about like what you think you draw from music on your day to day kind of boring
I think
stuff.
it helps tremendously with creativity. At my desk,
Mm.
I have an acoustic guitar which I will pull out from time to time. Sometimes maybe I pull it out too much. But
Yeah.
it's also a stress reliever too. But
Sure.
I find that there's many things that guitar does. Um, uh, it also relaxes people. So if they're coming to my office and they're having a particularly tough, challenging day or an
Yeah.
issue, I pick it up and I'm not strumming obnoxiously, but I'll,
Yeah.
just to have it, I think it relaxes them and it makes it an easier situation. But for me, I think it helps tremendously with creativity. It helps with team building. The other day, I do these weekly basement sessions on Facebook and Instagram. I started them during COVID, and many times I
Yeah.
will choose my set list throughout the week, and a song will come to me. And I played last week, "Let My Love Open the Door," and and there were folks outside dancing and clapping, and it's just something you don't typically think you're going to see in a corporate setting. But I think it
Yeah.
also sets
Yeah.
me apart from others, and as I said, everybody pretty much likes music. Sometimes I might be a little too loud, and I apologize on this podcast for those who
Uh-huh.
I have annoyed. I'm sure there's many of them, but yeah, I find during the day it does help with creativity too. I think we're in a
Yeah.
brainstorming, pulling out that guitar, and just even hearing it, I think just loosens everyone up and allows them to think more freely. Um, and then also I'll do things like during the holidays, we'll do a little holiday
Yeah.
concert for our employees, which is always fun as well.
That's really so. Maybe take me a layer deeper on that creativity session idea. Because when people think about, when you sit down to do a paper, or you're working on something, like everyone always puts music on in the background, right?
Always.
So you're bringing it in live. So like take me into one of those and what's
Oh,
happening and
sure.
how does
Well,
it
it's
how
usually
does it
it
affect?
happens in my office. Like I'm not traveling around, but we had earnings yesterday. It was a
Yeah.
particularly, it was a, we took guidance down. So, but thank
Yeah.
goodness we wound up. We were on Jim Cramer. It was, a great segment. Jim's a big supporter of the company, but it's one of those days where, things, it's never a done deal that your day's going to be good, but
Yeah.
we were sitting there brainstorming ideas as to other media that we should be speaking with during the day, and so it helped there. But also, it helps tremendously. We were talking recently about we just did a deal with Dolly Parton for Duncan Hines. And
Mm.
my team had some idea for we came up with a line of Dolly Parton cakes, banana and coconut, and she was delightful to work with. Our
Yeah.
team, she was so nice to our team. Again, another legend that what you see is what you get, and it's so wonderful. And I will say that they're selling quite well. But we were talking about, well, how can we elevate this? How can we
Yeah.
stand out even more? With our customers, and how can our customers market this and promote this? And I sat with my head of brand marketing, Laney Friedman, and Mike Cummins, who heads up corporate, and we all kind of had a mini brainstorm talking about various things that we can do to really help shine light and gain
Yeah.
exposure on this new line of Dolly Parton cakes. As popular as Dolly is, promotion's
Yeah.
always needed if you want to stand out on the store shelves. And so I was playing my guitar during that, and probably played Jolene a few times, and it
Sure. Of
worked
course.
out. We came up with a great plan.
Yeah.
And so it's been very, very useful. But I'll always have music in the background too.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's on all day.
Sure.
I
Sure.
find it
And
relaxes me. I do have ADD, so that's maybe a bit of a challenge at times, but I'm never going to give up the music.
Way back when we started talking a second ago, you talked about, some of the more challenging times, maybe it's, crisis, management or things like that. How does it play a role for you in those moments?
Um, when it's a stressful time. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
gosh, well, a big role. I mean, I think that certainly, even if I'm home or I'm working through something, I will just pick up that guitar and sing and work through it. I haven't written in a long time. I used
Mm.
to write songs. I haven't done that in a long time. I'm way overdue. to
Yep.
do that. And so years ago, I would write songs and based on experiences. If it wasn't work experience, like I was, but it was based on the stress or the pressures of work. I would be able to use that as an outlet for creativity.
Yep.
Um, uh, but I will, even at work, if things are a little tense, I will just take it and strum and pluck.
Sure.
I'm probably doing a little more than nowadays during COVID and post COVID than I was
Yeah.
before. But I found my love of performing again during the pandemic.
Hmm.
So and that's the other thing too. I'm not nearly as accomplished as you on the guitar, but I'm more of a rhythm guitarist, but
Sure.
I really, it's something that immediately when I touch it and I put it in my hands, there is
Sure.
a calming that comes upon me and a confidence that comes upon me that I
Yeah.
think is very much appreciated. And so when there are issues, I do find
Yeah.
as I said earlier, I think it's the thing that it's that one thing. My wife runs. My wife is an amazing runner. Me, I just love music.
Yeah. And I'm curious, do you find yourself, do you know who the other, musicians are at ConAgra, and like, do you find yourself in meetings? Do you ever make connections based on
Yes,
that kind of thing?
I have. I've had the pleasure to play with many of them over the years. They're actually in
Yeah.
Omaha, in our Omaha office. I'm based in Chicago, but there for the longest time was a ConAgra band. But I
Oh.
mean, I used to head up communications at Bally Total Fitness, and we would have in Vegas every year they would have their big gala for
Yeah.
their top trainers and top salespeople, and oh my goodness, I would perform one year. It was when Elton John had just started his residency. I dressed up like Elton John.
Oh
Um,
my God.
uh, uh, Not near.
You have pictures?
There might be. I also dress. I dress up as Elton John, and at one point I dressed up as Prince, but I wound up looking like Liza Minnelli. It was not a
Okay.
good
All right.
look, but I did introduce the Time, and I performed on stage with Morris Day and the Time,
Oh my
which
God.
was a blast. And
That's
my
great.
wife had no idea that I knew those dances. So I'm most proud of the fact that I had no friends in high school.
So you can do the
I did the
bird?
Bird and Jungle
Yeah.
Love, and I knew both those dances
Yeah.
down
Oh my
pat.
God.
And I still talk to Jerome Benton. I just talked to him recently, who is a part of the Time, and I sit on the board of the Grammy Museum with Jimmy Jam. So it's so funny how
That's
how
great.
the world. It's just a very very small world. But yeah, I remember dressing up like Elton John, and it was the joke was we couldn't get Elton John, or we told employees
Oh,
that we had Elton John, but I came out and
yeah.
performed Saturday Nights Are Right for Fighting. But it's almost, I've done it in situations where it's been calm and cool and collected, like brainstormings, or I've done it where you're actually performing for folks, like I said at Sara Lee in Tuscany or in Vegas. And people are always friendly. I hope it sounds good. But at
Yeah.
least they're polite.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Um, so maybe a final thought here, and this has been just
Thank
great,
you.
kind of traveling through your world here. One of the questions I get a lot from people is, oh, I always wish I'd started playing, and I said, well, start now. In a year, you'll be great. You'll be fine. What are your thoughts on the late in life comers to guitar or something
Do
like
it.
that?
It's never too late. I took swimming lessons
Right?
2 years ago, because I was a swimmer, but I wasn't a great swimmer. Never, and I take vocal lessons every week. And I think you have to do it. I think if it's in you and you want to do it, life's too short and music is
Mhm.
too good.
Yeah.
I think it is, as you and I have talked, it's been such a wonderful part of my life, and I think it's a part of so many people's lives. And I just think
Yeah.
I think if you want to do it, you have that desire, you have that passion. Really, it's a little more difficult for folks
Mhm.
as they get older. But you know what? A lot of things get more difficult.
Everything
But
gets
if
difficult.
you
Yeah.
have it in you,
Exactly.
I know
Exactly.
many people who took it up during the pandemic, and I encourage them
Mhm.
to do it. A buddy of mine, Darren, has been playing guitar, and and a dear friend of mine teaches guitar here in Chicago, and he's a lot of folks who are in our age group are people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, some cases 70s and 80s, taking piano, taking guitar, taking voice.
Why not?
Why not? Life's too short, and age is just a number.
Yeah, I honestly, life's too short and music is too good. That maybe make its way into the slogan
Well,
here. That's pretty good.
well, thank you. I appreciate that. It really is, and that's why I've always thought in life we all go through good times, bad times, struggles, challenges, but music has always been there. Any genre, any band. There is that chemical reaction that you have when times are tough, to get yourself up, or if you
Absolutely.
need to, our CEO, Sean Connolly, is a huge fan of music. I mean, enormous. And he was blasting some Stevie Ray Vaughan yesterday at 5 a.m. yesterday, getting ready for earnings, and AC/DC. And it's a wonderful, wonderful part of so many lives. And I don't know what I would ever be without it. I've said that so many times, but it's, I love meeting other musicians and other music lovers too. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, this has been a treat. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll be sure your Fridays, right?
Fridays is my basement sessions on at Jon J Harris, JonJay Harris on Instagram and on Facebook, and I do it with a buddy of mine, Aaron, who used to be my guitar teacher. He hasn't thrown me out of my basement yet. It's a lot of fun. We have sponsors. We give away prizes. And I think it's kind of just an hour for folks to just kind of forget, let loose, and kick off the weekend. So I'd love anyone and everyone to join.
I'll be sure to get those links when we post this. I'll make sure those are down there so people can go attend. And I'll be there too.
I would be honored. Thank you so much. And I would love for you to perform as well. So.
Well, let's do
it.
All right,
we'll set it up. Brother, I'm going to hold you to it. I look forward to it.
Oh, I'm in. Listen, just like you in Tuscany, it is not hard to get me.
All right. Well, then let's do it. Consider it a deal.
All right. That's fantastic. Thanks for listening all the way to the end. I know you can't like and subscribe to every podcast that you listen to, but if you do it for just one this week, I hope it's mine.